Hey everyone, episode 2 and I haven't abandoned you yet. I think that's a good sign. Today we're going to be continuing our series on world building, starting today with cartography, which means, yep, we're going there. The good thing about drawing maps, I think, is it requires no skill for straight lines because of this handy thing called water. Yes, because of water, most lines denoting the boundaries of countries and continents are a bit squiggly. So even if you suck at drawing and your hand shakes the entire time, blobby landmasses are sufficient. And yes, drawing maps is required. At least if you're building a world from scratch. If you're writing contemporary or urban fantasy, you're a little bit more off the hook with this, because the locations you're writing in already exist. So I'll let you slide just this once. But if you made up the town you're writing in, good! You get to join us in map drawing. Oh, hush up, it's fun. Wait, you might say. Not so fast. If you're going to make me wield this pencil, I at least want to know why maps are so important to world building. Well, to put it simply, maps are an outline of your world. All of the things in your world take place on the land and water features on your map. Your world inhabits space, and it's usually a good idea to know the boundaries of that space. That's why so many fantasy books contain maps. Lord of the Rings, Song of Ice and Fire, Mistborn, sometimes maps are just a helpful tool for the reader. But even if they're not for the final copy of your book, they are for you. They're for your reference. You should know your world, map and all. Of course, I find maps can also help with world building. You'll know where the central cities are, which will tell you where most of the population lives. You'll be able to judge the distance between cities if your character is ever having to do some traveling. And you'll create a whole forest because your map was looking a little blank and you kind of wanted to draw squiggly blobs for 5 minutes. See? World building. For example, here's a map of one of the regions of my world in Hour of Mischief. The world, Memoria, is set on a clock. And no, that's not a metaphor. So of course this region has a rounded edge. And since different numbers correspond with a god, I was able to tell where to put some important temples and landmarks on the map. Water goddess? Better put a lake here. The city of the sun? Well, I'd better put that next to the number of the goddess of day. Map building helps give me symbolic details for the placement of locations, which may not matter that much in the long run, but they make me happy. And world building is all about happiness. Except for when the complexities are driving you insane. I also drew this map when I didn't know that much about this region of my world. Seeing the map in front of me helped clear up my writer's block and keep me slogging on. Maps can be inspiring. And for God's sake, if your characters do any amount of traveling in your book, do yourself a favor, draw a map. You're gonna want a way to track your character's progress, and without a map, you might end up banging your head against the wall for long hours into the night. You want to know how far they have to go and how long it's gonna take. Another fun thing about maps is you can draw maps from the perspective of people in your world. You know how those old maps used to have a lot of sea monsters in the ocean, and they were made of really out of proportion continents that would make any cartographer laugh? Well, those reflected what people knew at the time, and how much traveling they had done. A more detailed map will tell you that your citizens are more well learned. And maps could differ from region to region. Some people might favor cities, while others might favor mountains and forests and nature stuff. Remember, it's not just about what you know about your world, it's what your characters know. So after you draw your God's Eye View map, draw a few other maps from your character's perspective and see what you discover. I personally love drawing maps. It makes the world feel more solid, more real. Not to mention it can help you get to know the region, and it makes a wonderful reference while you're writing. So give yourself a framework before you dive into the details. Thanks for watching this episode of the Word Doc. Next week we're going to work on filling in our new outline for the world with geography. Until then, happy writing.